Hello and welcome back to Mariners Rundown, the show that gives you, the fan, all you need to know about the Seattle Mariners. Hosted by yours truly, Jake from Raise the Trident. How is everyone doing today? I know you can't respond, but still hope you're doing well on this, at this point, Friday morning. I'm recording this Thursday afternoon, kind of close to afternoon, but coming out Friday morning. So hope you're having a good start to your Friday, getting to work well. It is almost the weekend. Woo! Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Today is a pretty stacked episode of Mariners Rundown. We have a lot to go over. We are going to start with the Giants series recap when we went to Oracle Park. Had a pretty rough time, if you didn't already know. And then go over the series against the Houston Astros at home, our first series against the, I would say, most hated rivals of the Seattle Mariners for a 3-game stretch in T-Mobile Park. We're going to go over the offense, how they're doing right now, where they're ranking in the league on certain stats, who's been standing out thus far. Same thing with the pitching. We're going to have Ty Dane Gonzalez of Locked On Mariners on later as well. He's going to talk a little bit about general feelings about the team, the what we're going to about to get into, the Ryan Bliss and Victor Robles injuries, Dan Wilson's tenure thus far, and yeah, just had a really good time talking with Ty. Looking forward to you guys hearing that. And we will end it out with a very quick little series preview for our upcoming series against both the Texas Rangers starting tonight and then our road series against the Cincinnati Reds, which is going to be coming up next week. First of all, before I get into that, as always, if you're listening to the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please follow the show and leave a 5-star review. It helps me out a lot. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And if you like the channel enough, you can become a member for a couple dollars a month to get some exclusive content. I did film an extra thing with Ty Dane Gonzalez that is going to be members only. It was a great time reviewing music that has been made by former Major League Baseball players. It was an interesting time, to say the least. So if you want to see that, become a member on the YouTube, and you can check that out. It'll be out at the same time as this podcast. So to start out with, we have to talk about the Giants series. The Mariners made the flight down to San Francisco to play a 3-game series at Oracle Park. The Giants have started off the year pretty good going into the series. I believe when we entered the series, they were like 6-1 maybe. I think they had just swept, I don't remember what team. They swept someone. I know that. It might have been the Reds. Not completely sure. Unfortunately, the series against the San Francisco Giants, which going into it, I was pretty feeling nostalgic. I've said it before on other places, a bit of my background as far as baseball fandom. I started out as a Giants fan. Pretty much my whole family are San Francisco Giants fans. Grew up in a household that was Giants fans. And so I was there during their peak time in the early 2010s when they won 3 World Series in 5 years. That was phenomenal to watch. But now the Mariners aren't my team, the one that I've picked to follow and be a fan of. And it was really nice seeing the Mariners play in Oracle Park. In my opinion, it is the best ballpark in the MLB. Unfortunately, this series did not go very well. We ended up getting swept in 3 games. Yeah, we lost 3 in a row to the Giants. Pretty tough. Game 1, we'll go over them really quick. Game 1 was an absolute heartbreaker. And a lot of it is we should have won that game, to be honest with you, and I'll go over that. However, we obviously didn't. We would get walked off in the 11th inning. So went to extra innings and +2 than the normal, so the 11th. And let's go over how we got screwed. Okay, guys. So Carlos Vargas comes into pitch because at this point in the game, he is the last guy remaining. I don't remember if it's the Pebble Castillo start, his first one. I believe only went 3 innings. So, and this is also the Verlander game, I think, too. So they both only went 3 innings. So both teams need to use their bullpen up. This was a very high scoring game. Both the offenses were absolutely just hitting the daylights out of the ball. But Carlos Vargas is pretty much the last one left as we go into the 11th. Obviously, there's a Manfred man on second base to start all extra innings. And the first batter is Sam Huff. And the first part where we get screwed is in the count. He ends up getting a ball called on him in a 1-2 count that should have been a strike, and it should have been strike 3. And if you look at where the ball ends up, it is very comfortably in the top left corner. If you're from the pitcher looking at home plate, the top left corner of the strike zone, very comfortably a strike. Not a shadow zone pitch, nothing like that. Very comfortably a strike. However, Cal Raleigh behind the plate gets crossed up. He was setting up inside. He catches the ball pretty bad, and because of that, the umpire rules that a ball. So instead of a strikeout, to get 1 out, still have a runner on second base. Pretty good situation right there, right? Instead, that guy ends up getting a walk. Or sorry, no, he doesn't. He ends up grounding out to the right side of the infield, which moves the runner from second base to third base. So instead of having 1 out and a runner on second base, we have a runner on third and 1 out. Not nearly as good of a situation, obviously. So that's already not great. Then the second batter, who I don't remember who it was exactly. I think it was Fitzgerald from the Giants. Very speedy guy. Vargas places, I believe it was a slider, right on the outside bottom corner on, the MLB.com game day, whatever. It was, it clipped the strike zone. It was a strike. However, it gets ruled a ball. And Fitzgerald ends up walking and getting on base. So that's 1 out, runners on first and third. Or it might have been 2 outs or 1 out. I don't remember. Fitzgerald is a really quick runner, though. And that's kind of the problem. Because Fitzgerald, I believe, gets to second right after that. I don't remember if it was a stolen base or what. And that guy, who should have been struck out, ends up being the winning run to walk it off. So, absolute heartbreaker. Vargas basically struck out the side in the 11th. But because of 2 missed ball calls, instead, the Giants win the game. Pretty rough. Was not a fun night by any means. Game 2, I'm not really going to go into. It was just bad. I mean, it was just a signature bad Mariners loss. Game 3, though, we get walked off again to secure the sweep. And this occurs the pitch after Victor Robles on a foul ball. I believe this is extra innings at this point. I don't remember if it's the 9th or extra innings. But I think there was a runner on first or second. Victor Robles gets a fly ball that's hit to his side that is going into foul territory. And Victor decides he is going to go all out for this ball. And he makes a fabulous catch. However, he runs into the netting, goes over the side fence, barrier, whatever you want to call it, goes into the fencing. You see his left arm kind of go back as he lands like face forward into the fence with his arms up above his head. His left arm clearly extends back in a pretty unnatural way, and he's clearly injured. He's clearly hurting a great deal. He's immediately kneeled over on the dirt and can't even get the ball in. He has to literally just like backhand get the ball as far away from him as possible. So Julio, coming from center field, picks up the ball and gets it into the infield. And runner gets to third on that. Initially, he gets called back to second because I guess they ruled the ball dead. I don't really know what happened with that. But the runner advances from first to second. And Victor is down and clearly in a lot of pain. I mean, it was not he just, seemed like he kind of got a little dazed here and there, or the wind knocked out of him. That was kind of a little bit of the assumption immediately. But you see him holding his left wrist. And people thought it was a wrist injury, but I looked at the replay. I'm like, that's not a wrist injury. His wrist hasn't bent anything weird. I bet you that's a shoulder issue. And lo and behold, I was unfortunately correct. He ends up being diagnosed with a left shoulder dislocation. He is now on the 10-day IL. And right now he broke the humeral bone in his shoulder. I don't remember the exact name. It was like humeral bone, something like that. He did have a fracture in one of the bones in his shoulder due to the dislocation. And right now the best prognosis for Victor Robles to come back is late June, which is rough. Okay. Not that Victor was having necessarily like a fantastic time at the plate in general, but he was leading the team in hits at the time of him departing. And just generally losing that kind of player, a great athlete, speedy, and a decent defender. I know he had some kind of rough times in the Giants series. I don't know how much, like, what the problem was, but okay defender, and also a huge spark plug for this team. A big vibes guy, and now he's out for a few months, and that's pretty rough for a team that already does not have much position player depth in general whatsoever. Pretty tough loss to have Victor Robles out of this lineup for the foreseeable future at this point. So hopefully you're not just now learning about this, but that is the Giants series. We end up getting swept, and to go along with it, we get one of our big outfield guys hurt for the long term. So going back to T-Mobile Park in Seattle to host our most hated rivals, the Houston Astros. I mean, yes, the Rangers are also a division rival that we're going to be competing for the AL West crown, but let's be real, the real rivalry here is the Astros and Mariners. And so it was the vibes are pretty low after that Giants series, not only getting swept, but Robles hurt. So you really worry a bit about this series against the Astros because, and I'll be clear here, and I've said it before and other things too. One of the biggest things this year is interdivision record, and that's especially against the Astros and Rangers because I think it will play a bit of a part in who makes the playoffs come the end of September. So really was hoping that we would get that series win against the Houston Astros. And thankfully, I am happy to report that we did end up getting that series win, but it was pretty ugly regardless. But to go over it here, we got a couple great starting pitching performances from both Logan Gilbert and Luis Castillo. Unfortunately, neither were able to get the quality start, just mainly due to innings. They didn't have the innings for it. But Logan goes 5.2 innings pitched, only gives up 1 hit, 1 earned run. It was just a solo home run. That was his 1 hit. Struck out 7 Houston Astros and walked 2. So he was 1 out away from that quality start, but a phenomenal outing from him. And Luis Castillo, he's been pretty hot to start the year, which has been really nice to see. He goes 5 innings, gives up 5 hits, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks. So 2 really good starts from them. The first game is when Logan Gilbert started, and thankfully we end up getting the win on that game, mainly in part to a 2-run Ryan Bliss home run, and then also a clutch 2-out 2-run single by Jorge Polanco. Jorge still has been really hot at the plate thus far, which has been awesome to see. It's been tough though because Jorge has not played a whole lot, and it's pretty clear that not only with his knee issues, and it was also revealed he's having some like side issues as well, that he can only bat left-handed right now. So if any team is either starting or brings in a lefty reliever, he's out of the game, which is a pretty like unfortunate and pretty frustrating problem to have because he is still your best hitter right now, and he has a big I guess thing holding him back from playing every single day and playing all the games. And it seems like he's not comfortable fielding either, so he's pretty much stuck in the DH slot right now, which is kind of fine for me. The hard part though is just we have such a log jam with that because anytime that Mitch Garver catches, they're going to want Cal Raleigh DHing. They're going to still want his bat in the lineup, even if it's not as hot as Jorge Polanco. They're going to want Raleigh's bat. Here and there, I would imagine they'll still take Polo over Raleigh just to give him an actual full day off if they can. And he definitely, will need it as the season goes on. So with Polo being an only DH, that is definitely causing some roster issues as far as like a logjam for that DH position. But alas, he's still been hitting the ball pretty well. Game 2, though, man, that game sucked. We lost 1-2 in 12 innings. So once again, another extra innings lost. The big thing for that game is Mariners hitters went 1 for 19 with runners in scoring position in that game, which is really what hurt them and what lost them that game. They just simply could not execute when they needed to get those runs across the plate, and they end up losing 1-2 to the Astros. And this is the game where, unfortunately and unknowingly, might I add, Ryan Bliss got injured. One of his earlier ABs, I believe, was in the bottom of the second. He swung and appeared to be in some pain. But he stayed in the game, and I honestly thought he just maybe had a bit of a stinger, like, when you kind of get jammed up, when the ball doesn't hit the bat, and then, kind of closer to the handle and your hands are ringing. I thought it was just that. However, unfortunately, I was wrong. He ends up finishing the game, though. He hits a double in the bottom of the fifth off Framber Valdez, might I add, that hit right off the base of the wall in left center. Unfortunately, I don't believe that rang in an RBI or anything, but a really solid hit off of a really good pitcher. And he made a very clutch defensive play in the top of the 10th where there was a runner on second base. There was a ground ball that was like kind of a high chopper that goes through the middle. And Bliss, not really, I wouldn't say dove, he more jumped up to prevent it from going into the outfield and find some outfield grass, preventing that runner from second from scoring. Instead, they go to third instead. So that was a really clutch play by him. Then we find out the next morning that he actually has a bicep tear, which is like not great news, obviously. And before this recording, we didn't really know how long he would be out. That kind of sounded like a couple months, potentially. And just now, as I'm recording this, the Mariners have released that he will be undergoing surgery to repair the tear, and the recovery will take about 4 to 5 months. So we might get Ryan Bliss back in September, which is horrible. Like that is worst case scenario, not for the whole team, but for Ryan Bliss especially. And I just feel terrible for him because he makes the team out of opening day. He's been a career prospect. He's been in the minor leagues for his whole career thus far, other than a cup of coffee last year. And although his numbers and his stats necessarily don't reflect it, I feel like I've been impressed by him at the plate. Feel like he's had some good at-bats. Feel like that he has made a lot of contact as well. He's been putting the ball in play. Maybe not with authority all the time, but he's been putting the ball in play, not striking out a whole lot. And there's been a little bit of unluckiness there too. And I feel like we were starting to see it. Once again in game 1, he hits a 2-run home run. And then in game 2, he has a big double as well. Unfortunately, he didn't score a run, but it was a double off of a really good pitcher. And so it was like maybe he was making that turn, and now he's going to be gone for 4 to 5 months. And that's tough because obviously second base was kind of one of our biggest holes going into the offseason. They give Ryan Bliss some leash to make a name for himself and try to secure that position for the long term. And within a few weeks of the season starting, he's out for a while. That's just, I'm heartbroken for him. I feel horrible for Ryan Bliss, for real. I mean, wishing a speedy and fast recovery, but man, I just feel terrible for him. But yeah, so we end up losing game 2, and then going into game 3, it was looking really bad until the 8th inning. Hunter Brown absolutely shoved, and this was a Pebble Castillo start. So if you don't know who Pebble Castillo is, that's Luis F. Castillo, who is not La Piedra. Luis M. Castillo, it's Luis F. Castillo. I call him Pebble Castillo. So going into the bottom of the 8th, we're down 5 runs to nothing, 5-0. And we managed to get the bases loaded with no outs. And you're thinking, okay, we have a pretty good, shot at making something happen here, getting some runs back, right? You have it in the back of your mind. We've been 0 for what feels like 100 with runners in scoring position. We've been obviously very bad in that department. And, I certainly was thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to get 3 outs right now, and I'm going to lose my mind. And it was looking like that to begin because Mitch Garver strikes out. Then Cal Raleigh grounds out to a force out, really, though. They throw it to home to get the lead runner. Cal gets to first. And so there's 2 outs now with runners, bases loaded, and we have not gotten a run. and Randy Arozarena comes up to the plate. He's been struggling. However, he looked ready for it, and he turns on a 91 mile an hour, believe fastball, down and in, and puts it into the bullpen for a grand slam. So now immediately with one swing, it's 5-4. We end up not getting another run, and Casey Lawrence comes in to work his third inning because we had barely any arms left. We did have Trent Thornton, we had Santos, so I'm not really sure why Lawrence goes out there for his third inning. We called him up that morning, and I'm thinking game has to be over because Casey Lawrence unfortunately gives up, I believe, 2 runs due to a bad pickoff attempt and then a wild pitch, which scores 1 run, and then gives up a ground ball with a runner, I believe, at third for a second run. So now we're back down. I believe it was going into the ninth. I want to say it was 6-4. So now we are down 2 runs now. And I'm thinking the game has to be over because the bottom of the order is coming up in Donovan Solano, Leo Rivas, and Miles Mastrobuoni. And they're going to be going up against Brian Abreu, who's a very solid reliever. We did hit him around a little bit in game 1, but still, solid reliever against the bottom of the order who hasn't really done a whole lot yet. And I was thinking, that's it. And thankfully, I was wrong. And I'm happy that I was wrong. We saw this a little bit last year in a lot of games, kind of the bottom of the order carrying the top of the order a bit. We did have, obviously, the Randy home run and whatnot, but both Donovan Solano and Miles Mastrobuoni square up Brian Abreu. They both get base hits which, by the way, Mastrobuoni has a .333 batting average in 12 ABs. So he's seen the ball pretty well to start out the year, which is really nice, and it's been very helpful, especially with his speed. Then we have, I believe, runners on first and third. JP hits a bit of a squibber to third base, which goes to Paredes at third base. Solano is kind of in no man's land, hesitates, but then tries to go back to the base. Paredes tags him. It's initially called out, and then it was reviewed, and Solano barely got back into the base. So at that point, it's bases loaded, 1 out. We have JP Crawford on first, Mastrobuoni on second, and Solano on third, and Julio's coming up to bat. And it's like, we've seen Julio come up in these situations so often, and it usually ends the same way with a strikeout. And it was kind of looking like it was headed that way, but with 2 strikes on him, Abreu throws a 98 mile an hour fastball down and away. Julio just simply puts a good swing on it, doesn't try to do too much. He pokes it into the right field grass down the line. He scores 2 to tie the game up. And then after that, Mitch Garver thankfully walks, which I think one of the strikes should have been a strike. It was a ball. He walks. And I believe at that point we have bases loaded and 1 out. Cal Raleigh grounds out. So I think, in the bottom of the 8th, Raleigh strikes out. He didn't ground out to home plate. It was bottom of the 9th when that happened. Cal Raleigh hits I believe a ground ball to first base. He throws it home. So it's now bases loaded, 2 outs for Randy Arozarena. And you're thinking, okay, well, he hit the grand slam last inning. Can he, get some magic again? And Randy Arozarena works a 6-pitch walk-off, which is awesome. And that ends up winning us that series. So we end up taking 2-3 against the Houston Astros, one of those wins being a Pebble Castillo start. And the vibes are now back up again. And because ultimately, if there's any team we need to beat, it's the Houston Astros, and we take care of business somehow, some way. We pull it off, and which is really helpful going into not only the off day, but then a Texas Rangers series, and then another off day as well. So everyone should be all good to go for that Texas series. Everyone's going to be all rested up with the off day today, especially a home off day, which I know is pretty important to those players. So ultimately, first series win of the season, which, is rough to say. I wish we had already had one, but that is okay. So at this point, the Mariners have a record of 5-8. I believe, I don't know if they're still last place on the AL West. Let's check. They are still in last place. They're tied with the Athletics right now. They're 4 games back of first place. But they're going into the Texas Rangers series, which is who currently has first place in the AL West right now with a 9-4 record. And we'll go over them a little bit later on in the show. So next, we're going to do our offensive update, and we're going to go over who's kind of leading the team and what, and then where the team ranks on certain stats. And we're going to do this every week just to see if we're improving or getting worse in certain areas. So this is as of the late night stats from the 9th. So the night after the last Astros game. So things might have changed a little bit here and there as far as the league rankings for certain things, but it won't change obviously for the team stuff. So right now, Jorge Polanco is leading the team in a few stats. He's leading the team in batting average at 370. He's leading the team in OPS at 986, and he's leading the team in RBIs at 10. Mastrobuoni is leading the team in on-base percentage with 429, and a close second is Jorge Polanco at 393. Really love seeing that, especially with Mastrobuoni getting on base because he does have some really great speed. So that would be really nice for him to get on base and cause some havoc there. And the Randy Rosarena and Julio Rodriguez are currently tied for the team lead in home runs with 3 apiece. Going into the league rankings, batting average, the Mariners rank 29th. So batting average is still pretty rough. On base percentage is a bit better. They're 19th, still not where you want it, but 19th on base percentage. They are 23rd in slugging and 22nd in OPS. So, we know the offense has some, improvement to have. Currently, they rank 21st in runs, 22nd in hits. They are 12th in home runs, so there's some slug there, which is nice, even though the slugging percentage is 23rd when they are hitting the ball hard when they get a hold of it, so that's good. Their best category is stolen base percentage. They are 3rd in stolen bases as of the night of Wednesday. And then they are currently for strikeouts, which, last year they led the league in strikeouts and basically baseball history in strikeouts. They're currently ranked 9th most in strikeouts right now. And I have noticed a little bit of them not striking out as much as they used to, which has been a nice change of pace. This isn't a league ranking thing really, but I want to talk about runners in scoring position because that's been one of the big topics so far this year is how we're hitting with runners in scoring position. So right now we are 13 for 101 in with runners in scoring position. So we are last place in the entire major leagues in batting average with runners in scoring position at a 129 batting average. And we're 29th in OPS at 450. So yikes. And then with strikeouts, we are 6th most. We're about a 30% clip right now of strikeout percentage when we have runners in scoring position. So not good at all. So would really love for them to improve on that because 13 for 101 is a rough stat line to read. It physically pains me to read that. So going into the pitching though, it feels like the pitching's kind of been, I don't know, kind of middle of the pack, middle of the road, a little mediocre for the most part. Right now, Castillo has had a really good start to the year, as well as Logan Gilbert and Brian Wu's been fine as well. So when we're looking at the starting pitching rankings for in-team stuff, so just looking at the rotation right now, Castillo is actually, Luis Castillo is 1st in ERA with a 2.12 right now out of the whole squad. Logan Gilbert is 2nd with a 2.55. Brian Wu is 3rd with a 3.75 ERA. Bryce Miller is 4th with a 5.73. And then Pebble Castillo is at 7.71 right now. I'm not going to worry about Hancock. I think it's 81, so it's crazy. When we're looking at WHIP, which is walks and hits per inning pitched, Logan is currently leading the squad right now at 0.62. He led the major leagues major league starters last year in WHIP, so it makes sense his is low. Brian Wu's right behind him in 2nd place at 0.92. Luis Castillo is 3rd at 1.12. Miller is at 1.64. He's had a pretty rough start to the year thus far. And then when we're looking at batting average against, Logan Gilbert is first with a 129 batting average against. Brian Wu is second with a 186. Castillo is at a 206, and Miller is at a 302. Gilbert and Castillo are the only pitchers with 3 game starts thus far. Everyone else is at 2. So Brian Wu, Bryce Miller, and Pebble Castillo only have 2 starts. So obviously that inflates Gilbert and Castillo's numbers a little bit. Looking at the relief pitching in the bullpen, right now, both Andres Munoz and Gabe Spire have a 0.00 ERA. Neither of them have given up an earned run yet this year, which has been awesome to see, especially from Gabe Spire. A nice comeback season for him. Gregory Santos is in second at 1.59, and then everyone else, as far as like Colin Snyder and the rest of your regular bullpen arms, are under 5. They're in between 4 and 5 right now. Gabe Spire leads the bullpen in both whip and batting average against, which is nice to see. Trent Thornton's actually second in whip at 0.88, and Munoz is third at 1.17. So now we're going to look at the rankings across the entire league. So looking at the rotation, right now in ERA, they rank 20th with a 4.55 combined ERA. That one's a little hard because I think a lot of that obviously has to go with the Hancock start. So that inflated it a little bit. In whip, they are currently 18th at 1.32. Batting average against, they currently rank 20th at 242. And they are 12th in strikeouts with 64. Our bullpen, looking at those same stats, ERA, I forgot to write down where they rank. They have a 3.11 ERA, so there is that. In whip, they rank 19th at 1.40. Batting average against, they're 22nd with a 250. Strikeouts, they're tied at 15th for 45. And one stat that's extra that I thought was important to note, they have pitched the second most innings out of all the squads and all the teams, with 55 innings pitched by our bullpen so far this year. So some things to look about and think about right now. So as your update as of the 9th of April, and next week we will check back in to see if any of those rankings are a little bit better or worse. Hopefully better, obviously. So yeah, now we're going to turn to our guest spot. This time, he's been on the channel Race the Trident before. However, this is his debut on Mariners Rundown. I'm sure he'll be back again in the future. We're going to be talking to Ty Dane Gonzalez of Locked on Mariners, which is the biggest fan-led podcast on in the Mariners community. They're massive. I think they just hit 13,000 subscribers, so congratulations to them. Go check them out. Ty's links are going to be in the description down below. Also check out, he just came out with an album called Ultimania that's on Spotify and some of your other streaming platforms, so check that out and make some really good music. But let's talk to Ty about various things going on with the Seattle Mariners. All right, I am here with Ty Dane Gonzalez from Locked On Mariners. He's not exactly a stranger to the Race the Trident channel or anything like that, but his first appearance on Mariners Rundown. So, hello, Ty. How's it going today?
I'm doing well, man. This show is probably going to be infinitely better than it was had they not made that comeback yesterday. So
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actively thinking about that, and we're recording this the morning after their big comeback win against the Houston Astros to win that series, and I was actively thinking about that the whole game. I'm like, tomorrow is going to be a very interesting conversation. That's
Oh, yeah.
not going to be a whole lot of positive stuff, and then they made the big comeback, and like, yeah, I mean, hey, awesome that they won the series against your biggest division rival. That's great. However, it doesn't not mean that we have a whole lot of positive still to talk about. I feel like so.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit better. We're not as on edge, I feel like, at this point. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's still quite a few issues here. This team, glaring issues. Yeah.
yeah, and we're gonna go over those a little bit. So yeah, I guess just to start off, where is Ty Dane Gonzalez at in his head about the 2025 Seattle Mariners? What's your I guess your thoughts about the team? You know, we've only watched we're only in the double digit games just now, basically, that we've seen them play. And yeah, just kind of very, I guess, reactionary kind of take as far as, you know, what this team is and what it could be, since we have such a small sample size. But where are you at with this team right now?
Where is Ty Dane Gonzalez at with this team? Um, I think Ty Dane Gonzalez is having mixed feelings right now. Uh, I I think this team is incredibly funny. I think they're like the content kings right now.
Yep.
You look at like Tuesday night's game, perfect Mariners. They walk that tightrope for multiple extra innings, and then they have multiple opportunities to just. All you need is two sac flies to win the game. Nope, no, we're gonna strike out, or we're gonna hit ground balls once the infield is playing in, or what have you. We're gonna hit infield pop-ups, which are basically as good as strikeouts, all that good stuff. Just the, typical Mariners baseball. Um, but like Demo will drop a ball, but then it'll bounce right back up to him, and he'll step on third and make an insane throw over to first to get out of a bases loaded jam. Like, yeah, sure, yeah, why not?
Yep.
Or like they'll be down 5-0 on a day where Luis F. Castillo and Casey Lawrence combine for 7 innings, and they'll win that game. Yeah, sure, yeah, why not? Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, so they're incredibly funny. They're also incredibly frustrating to watch. And coming off of the way that the off season went, I mean, yeah, vibes overall suck. This is a start that they just couldn't afford to have, given the way that the off season went, and just given the general vibe in the fan base. Like, it's not a surprise at all that people are already as pissed as they are, already kind of as checked out as they are. Um, yeah, I mean, it's uh, it's a team with very clear issues. Or it was a team that had very clear issues going into the year. Those issues have already been exposed in a lot of ways, as many people had expected and feared. So it's just kind of like, see,
Yep.
it's kind of just a matter of that. And with the injuries that have cropped up, it's like, there you go. This is kind of the bed that you made. Now you have to lay in it. So it's really frustrating from that standpoint. Um, I gotta say, these 13 games have felt like a full season already. Like,
Yep.
it's been exhausting.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree, especially this last I feel like the Giants series took a lot out of me because one, it was already kind of a weird series for me having grown up a Giants fan and my dad's a Giants fan still and all that stuff. So it's like I was happy to watch Mariners baseball in Oracle Park. I'm like, this is sick, being able to watch my favorite team in my favorite park. And then that series did not go very well at all. So, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, this is so nice to see, and then I absolutely hate it by the end of the series, which was super fun. And it kind of just
Yeah,
feels like every game at this point is feels like a total, like, I guess, slog to get through. It just feels like uh yeah, the heart rates are doing insane numbers never seen before on the heart rate monitor, and it's not great. So yeah, but hey, at the end of the day, we got the series win against the Houston Astros, which ultimately,
mhm.
in my opinion, uh at least focus on these interdivision games in the series. Those are going to ultimately be the most important come end of September. And I think what's kind of frustrating is, like, this team, if they were in a stronger division, like, I bet we would be having talks about, like, selling by the end of May. But the AL West is so bad, like, they will be in it through
Oh, yeah.
into the summer. And, like, so it makes it a lot tougher to, like, I don't know, just this team has so many glaring holes, and we came into those, and it's exposed the absolute lack of depth we have in so many key areas. That's been great. And to go into that a bit more, we've had two pretty I guess crucial injuries that have propped up over the last week. Game 3 of the Giants series, Victor Robles made a really great catch but he paid the price for it. Goes into the netting. His left arm goes back in a very unnatural way, and he now has a shoulder issue, a dislocated shoulder that caused a fracture in some sort of bone. I don't remember the name of the bone, to be fair. However, he's going to be out for at least until like late June, I think, is
The
what they're saying.
humeral head.
The humeral
Jake.
head. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I've been
Yeah.
watching a lot of The Pit recently, but I did not learn about the
There you
humeral
go.
head. So he's going to be out through like the end of June at the earliest. Like that is best case scenario. And Ryan Bliss, we woke up to the news yesterday morning that he has a torn bicep. Which he had at one point in game, I believe it was 2 of the Astros series, and played the rest of the game and played pretty well the rest of the game. But he is going to be hitting the IL for kind of an unknown amount of time. We don't really know how long exactly he's going to be out or what the prognosis is for that. But I would imagine it's going to be a little while without Ryan Bliss, which really sucks because although his numbers maybe don't reflect, as offensively, how I feel promising he's looked like.
Yeah.
I think the big thing for Ryan Bliss that was impressing me is it just felt like he wasn't really striking out a whole lot, and he was at least getting the ball in play. He was unlucky here and there. I mean, he was still hitting plenty of kind of, I would say, weaker ground balls. But at the end of the day, like, we need guys who can put the ball in play, and he was doing pretty well with that. And he's been pretty good defensively, which is interesting because like the scouting report on him has always been his defense is pretty shaky. He's actually been pretty decent thus far, and
He's
made
been amazing.
and made a really clutch play in game 2. Unfortunately, we didn't get paid
with
off
a torn bicep, by the way.
With a torn bicep, hit a double off Framber Valdez with a torn bicep. What a dog! But with those 2 injuries looming, kind of what are your takes on kind of what this team can do to hopefully survive for these next couple months? We're going to be without those 2, I would say, pretty key players.
Yeah, first and foremost, I look at my phone and Colby texts me. Colby Patnode, my host on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For those of you that might not know, I don't know. Yeah. He texts me. He goes, "Well, Bliss is out with a torn bicep." At that point, I'm like, I'm gonna crash out. Like after the win, I stayed up until 1:30 the night before to watch the Mariners lose 2-1 after again having multiple opportunities to easily win that game. I'm gonna crash out. Plus, like, for those of you that do watch Locked On Mariners, we do this episode called Flag Day every year where we pick 5 Mariners that we believe in more than most. I did not do well last year. We'll just leave it at that. This year, I picked Victor Robles, Ryan Bliss, George Kirby, Mitch Garver, JP Crawford. Things have not gone well on any of those fronts so far. So, I'm living in hell right now. Yeah. So, my general reaction to those injuries is, again, this is the bed you made. Now you have to lay in it. This is, unfortunately, the spot that you put yourself in with the little to no action that we saw this offseason. We had been pounding the table for Victor Robles insurance, not just because of injury, right? I mean, obviously because of injury, but like there were, obvious signs of potential regression. Like the guy just had significantly outperformed his career numbers tenfold last year. So it was like, okay, if Luke Raley is going to be your first baseman, then you need to go out and get another outfielder. Instead, they're operating as essentially like Rowdy Tellez was that Victor Robles insurance. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, I know like Rowdy Tellez has like his like fan base because he's a meme player, but the guy posted a 90 WRC plus last year and like a 78 WRC plus the year before that. Mitch Garver has had a good season more recent than Rowdy Tellez has. So, I just haven't seen anything out of Rowdy Tellez that makes me go like, yeah, he should be part of this thing. It's just not good enough. Like the answers that they do have, the answers that they did put in place, answers, quote unquote, that they did put in place this offseason, just not good enough. I know Miles Mastrobuoni has had a really good like last 4 games. He's been an unsung hero. He literally led the team in hard hit balls yesterday with 3. Miles Mastrobuoni of all people had 3 balls put in play that were over 95 mph X velocity.
He was cranking it yesterday.
Yeah, he was yanking and cranking.
Yeah.
He was really
Putting
stroking
some
that
good
thing.
wood on the ball for real.
Yeah. He just had us on the edge of our. Yeah, that doesn't work. We'll move on. I'm not on my A game today. But like even then, I'm not excited about Miles Mastrobuoni. Sorry, like I don't believe in that. Like give it another month. Maybe he's like Rangers Travis Jankowski a couple of years ago. Maybe he's that to the Mariners this year. Cool, awesome. But yeah, overall, like that doesn't make me feel good about this situation. You lost 2 everyday players, and an underrated aspect of this is you lost 2 of your better athletes, 2 of your biggest threats on the base path. Victor Robles was your hits leader. He was on an 8-game hit streak. He was kind of like an ideal leadoff man because he doesn't strike out much. He puts the ball in play, and he finds a lot of grass. For some reason, Fangraphs hates that and had him at a negative 0.3 F4 before he got hurt. I'm pretty sure he was like literally the worst Mariner position player by Fangraph standards, which that totally makes sense. But yeah, like they just don't really have any answers. I mean, right now, their answer is Luke Raley, who really can only hit right-handed pitching. And or at least we haven't seen anything that suggests that he can't only hit right-handed pitching. And Dom Canzone, who he's only had 3 at bats, but Jesus Christ, they've been really bad.
Yeah.
They don't really have any right-handed outfield help down in the minors. Samad Taylor, who's off to a decent start and had a pretty nice spring, but also had an 88 WRC plus last year. Now he does bring some of the speed that you've lost, but can he get on base enough to justify that? And you're probably not going to play him every day. So at most, he's a late game pinch runner, probably. Yep. That's not really the solution that you're looking for here. After that, it's like, okay, every other player in Tacoma with outfield experience is left-handed. I mean, Harry Ford technically has outfield experience. He had 8 games in left field last year. And obviously, he's a great athlete who could convert to the outfield. And maybe that's what winds up happening here. Because obviously, he wouldn't catch a ton at the major league level for the Mariners. But that's going to take some time. And he's not playing every day right now down in Tacoma. He's playing kind of like every other day at the moment, which is weird. But that's a whole nother discussion. So maybe that's the answer here, but that's going to take a while. That's probably going to take up until the point where the trade market starts opening up a bit more. The other option is Jared Sundstrom, who's 23 years old down in Double-A, not off to a good start right now, but had a really good spring. But that's it. That's the extent of your options in house right now. So, maybe there's a guy that they like out on the market, or maybe one of these teams is actually willing to sell that we're not thinking of. I don't know who that could be. I don't think that Luis Robert Jr. is an answer right now because 1, he's off to a bad start, but 2, he's also owed a ton of money right now. And I just don't think that John Stanton is going to sign off on that this early in the season. Mm-hmm. Especially with how bad Robert has been to start the year. And, some of the questions about like his effort, especially last year. Now he was on literally the worst team of all time, so who can blame him? But still, it wasn't a good look. Mm-hmm. That he seemed pretty checked out. And obviously, this is a Mariners team that really cares about, effort levels and, the work people put in and, showing up to the ballpark, giving your all and all that stuff. Right. So do they even like Luis Robert? They did a lot of research on him. The White Sox did a lot of research on the Mariners farm system last year. Like we know that did happen. Like So there was obviously like some level of interest there, but it didn't come together. Why was that? And now, more time has passed. We've seen more games from Robert. They haven't been good. But again, I think really just ignoring all of that, I think the money is just what ultimately gets in the way of that. Right now, because I think it would be like $14 million still.
Mhm.
I might be wrong on that. Maybe it's like 11, but still, I just think that's too much for Stan and ownership to approve this early in the season. Um, so yeah, so like you just kind of have to grin and bear it right now. And
Mhm.
I mean, maybe against lefties, you play Dylan Moore in the outfield, but then what do you do in the infield? Right? Like
Yeah.
this just kind of like you go in circles here. Because your infield right now, especially if Jorge Polanco can't play in the field right now because of his side thing or the knee or both or whatever it is, the messaging on that has been incredibly weird, which of course the Mariners would be weird about their messaging to the fan base and to the media. Um, yeah, you're kind of screwed. Like in terms of just like your flexibility, the options that you have available to you. Yeah, it's not a good situation right now.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if the timing of these injuries is just really what makes it even worse, right? Because like people would say, and surely it's part of the debate with Ryan Bliss was like, okay, well, hey, you could bring up Cole Young, right? But then people, the other half of that is still let him get more time in Tacoma, see how he's doing there, and don't
Yeah,
call him up too early. So it's almost like if these injuries maybe occurred like a couple months later, like let's say in like June, then we'd be having a bit more interesting conversations about these in org options to cover these injuries. But we're in such a
yeah,
weird place with where our farm system's at, where like all of the really like the good studs are not going to be ready right now, and they're certainly not going to be ready by even maybe the All-Star break, because we don't know how Cole Young's going to do necessarily. It's still really early on in the season there, and if he struggles a lot in Tacoma, then I mean, is he really an option right now? I don't know. I
it
mean,
just if it's this early, it just reads desperation.
yeah, yeah.
It really does. Like
Hmm.
even with Williamson to a certain degree, because again, if it's this early, then why wasn't he considered for the roster coming out of camp?
Yeah,
Right? Like clearly, like they didn't think that he's ready for this. Like they
hmm,
determined 2 or 3 weeks ago that he wasn't ready for this. Nothing that he did in Tacoma would have changed their minds, right? It's
yeah.
absolutely just fully 100% dependent on what has happened at the major league level that has changed their minds on that. That they're just like, well,
Hmm.
we have nothing else we can do, which like that's not good. That
Yeah.
really isn't. Um, yeah, so it's just I don't know. You're stuck in a weird place because it's like, yeah, okay, the exciting thing to do here is yes, call up Cole Young or Ben Williamson, but again, are those guys ready? Do you actually think as an organization that they're ready? You probably don't because you didn't think so 3 weeks ago. And I don't think this was like a service time thing either, right? So I don't think they're just waiting for that to run out so they can call them up. I don't think that's what was going on here. So it's just yeah, it's just a bad look across the board, no matter what happens.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in with coming into the season having pretty much no margin for error, and you're a little over 10 games in, and the error has occurred multiple times.
Yeah.
And really expose the I guess the roster construction deficits here. I mean, we already kind of knew what they were going in. I mean, I don't think I've jokingly been like on the Telez train, big boy representation, all that great stuff or whatever.
Girthquake.
Yeah,
Yep.
Girthquake, of course, fourth member, right?
Yeah.
We're the Beatles,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, I'm not going to expect Telez to come in and post a 130 WRC plus or anything like that's just and have 40 bombs. It's just and he just simply can't be here much longer if he keeps going the way he's going. I mean, it's not even competitive at bats at all. Like that's the thing is it's not like a
Yeah.
Ryan Bliss where you're like, I see the process there. He's putting up some good at bats. He's getting the ball in play. You know, some of them are just not going his way. Whatever. It's just not that for Tellez. Like he's just been bad, straight up. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's
It
been
like
tough.
no, nothing irritates me more in baseball than being in a 3-1 count as a hitter, taking a dick middle fastball for strike two, and then swinging at a curveball below the knees for strike three.
Yep.
And we've seen that happen with Tellez multiple times already this year. I'm done. I'm out. Sorry. Like I was
Yeah.
just no, I'm good. And it's like, oh, but he's been playing good first base defense. Did you just hear what you said? Good first base defense. Like it's literally like the least important defensive position on the field, which look, every defensive position is important to a certain degree. That is the least important by far, though.
Yeah.
Don't care about his first base defense. Would rather have Luke Rayleigh over there. Would rather have Donovan Solano there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll live. We'll live. If it's not great first base defense, you will live.
Yeah.
At least you should, right? And if you can't live without good first base defense, you're probably not that good of a team, frankly. Um, so yeah, yeah, I just don't get like why they're treating Tellez as like a pure platoon bat because splits don't suggest that at all. He's been equal against righties and lefties, which is not saying much, but because the numbers are pretty mediocre against both sides. Um, but also Donovan Solano's not a platoon bat. He's not like he has been in the past, like where he hasn't been an everyday player outside of 1 year. But what I mean is like he's not a splits guy, right? Like he has hit righties very well since breaking out in 2019. Mitch Garver is not a splits guy. He's hit righties very well since I mean over the entirety of his career. It's like a 105 WRC plus against righties. That is more than fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can run both of those guys out against the same handedness, and it'll be absolutely fine. Donovan Solano had a hit yesterday against a tough righty in Brian Abreu. Like,
Yep.
there you go. And so, yeah, this obsession with handedness, it's something that I complain about with Scott Service at times. It's something that I feel Dan Wilson has had an issue with as well here in the early going, which probably means that, you know, again, because we hear that this is a collaborative effort, that it's not just on the manager, that the whole organization kind of collaborates on how, you know, things are operated in game. This is probably just more of a Mariners thing, right? Maybe it's a Jerry Dipoto thing, maybe it's whatever, but it's clearly just a Mariners organization thing. It's stupid, frankly. I don't like it. I don't think it's the best way to maximize your roster right now. And I don't think it's putting your guys in the best position to succeed. So yeah, and I just look like yeah, Donovan Solano's been bad and Ty's the Donnie Barrels guy, blah, 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 that's so funny. Okay, but also like Donovan Solano has 14 at bats, 15 at bats through the
Scattered
first 13.
across like what, 4
Yeah,
games?
through the first 13 games. Like, yeah, he's really struggled, but it's also very hard for a guy to get going or find any sort of rhythm when he's playing once every 3 or 4 days. Same thing with Mitch Garver, frankly. I would like to see Mitch Garver get more DH days. Now, is that possible with, you know, Polo
Probably not now.
situation? Probably not now. But
Garver
yeah,
can play
I mean,
first. I mean, he has a little bit of experience, I think, there, but it's like
yeah, yeah, they probably don't want both their catchers playing in the field though. But yeah, at the same time, you know, but yeah, I mean, like he's like they gave him a first base glove last year, and he was taking grounders over there and all that good stuff, you know, before games. So I don't know. I think he was even doing that a little bit this spring. But yeah, I just I don't think the lineup, not to be that guy, right? Because it ultimately is at times, or it can be lazy analysis, just hyper focusing on the lineup. But I do feel like the lineups have been really questionable. And I don't think that they've put these guys in the best position to succeed to start the year.
Yeah, well, that leads right into the next topic. I mean, Dan Wilson's been a pretty hot topic on social media when we're talking
Yeah.
about these Mariners games right now, and a lot of people don't seem very, I guess, impressed so far with how he's handled this first little stretch of games. So, kind of, what are your thoughts on Dan Wilson, how he's been doing so far this season? Do you think there could be improvement where his deficits are? And yeah, just your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I want to quickly uh acknowledge something. Um People think that our negativity towards Dan Wilson, which there's been a lot on the show, and for good reason, and we'll get into that in a second,
Mhm.
um, is simply because like we're Scott Service stands and we're still salty that Scott was fired and blah 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 blah. Like I respected Scott as the guy who was the manager of the team that broke the drought and all that. I did like Scott, and I did like Scott's overall philosophy. However, we were saying the same exact shit about Scott
Yeah.
a lot. I feel like it was almost as daily as this has been that, Colby would mention something stupid that Scott would do, a dumb bullpen move, a dumb bunt that was laid down, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Leaving a guy in too long, all that good stuff. Um, yeah, managers are a weird thing to cover, right? Because there's just so much context that is kind of just up in the air. You don't really know like what drives a decision. Like there's so much that we on the outside looking in just don't know. Um, and that's what makes talking about Dan Wilson difficult as well. But I think that there are some things that, once you see how things play out now, obviously hindsight's 2020, blah, 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 blah. But like take a game like Friday against the Giants, for example, where Luis F. Castillo starts the game. He's only able to give you 3 innings. You basically bullpen the day. Everyone's available. Every reliever proves to be available that day. And he just asks way too much of Colin Snyder, who ends up having to throw 43 pitches, which is a career high. He puts a lot on Edward Bizardo's plate. And the Bizardo one was especially weird because you had Trent Thornton and Gabe Spire warming up for that entire inning. Traffic got on the base pass, and he still kept Bizarro in there. It's like what's going on, right? Um, and it's one thing for us to say that, right? It's one thing for us to like point that out. It's another for like his friend and former colleague and an employee of the Mariners up in the booth, and Aaron Goldsmith on multiple occasions openly questioning what's going on.
Yep.
Like being like, that's weird. I don't know about that. We'll see how that works out. That Why are those guys warming up and you're not going to them? Like he's said stuff like that several times already in 13 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like it's something that like clearly like we're all noticing. Even the guy that is getting a check cut by the Seattle Mariners is going, what the hell? Watching this play out.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, like even yesterday, Randy hits the grand slam, and look, I get it, ninth inning, Donovan Solano, Leo Rivas, and Miles Mastrobuoni are due up. Yeah, if I was the manager of the Mariners, I too would be like, we don't have a shot. Like
Yeah.
this game is cooked. But still, it's a one-run game, and you're like, Casey Lawrence has this.
For his third
You
inning of
just throw him.
work.
Yeah, and it's like, okay. I mean, like, I know you use pretty much your whole bullpen the night before, but it is a one-run game, and you have a day off tomorrow. Like,
And
what are
Santos
we
was
doing?
available.
And Thornton, too. Like
Yeah.
Thornton hadn't pitched since Monday. Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? What are we doing? So, and then they have the pickoff that goes awry, and then
Wild pitch.
wild pitch,
Then ground
yeah,
ball
and
right
stuff.
in the hole, and you could kind of it was like you could hear Aaron Goldsmith be like, "Yep, there it is." Like you could hear
Yeah,
him as he's calling the ground ball for
yeah,
that second run or whatever. Just like, "Yep," and it's through the hole, and the Astros have the lead and or have an insurance run.
yeah. So like it's stuff like that where I'm just again, it's about putting guys in the best position to succeed. I don't think that whether it's Dan Wilson or it's overall the Mariners strategy, I don't think that they're doing that. And again, Dan's the figurehead. It's kind of the same thing like when we say John Stanton, right? When we talk about ownership, obviously Stanton is the only one calling the shots there on the ownership board, right? But he's the figurehead. So we immediately go to Stanton, right?
Yeah.
We immediately go to Dan Wilson. Maybe some of this stuff actually isn't on Dan. It's just part of the Mariners' overall philosophy as an organization. Stuff with like the lineup, like I talked about with Rowdy Tellez and all that stuff. But when we say Dan and Wilson, we just mean like just overall, like that's the guy, right? Like, and that's just that comes with the territory. That comes with the job as being the manager. You have to shoulder that. You have to shoulder that blame, right, for the decisions that happen, whether or not you're actually the one that fully led that effort, right? Um, but yeah, I don't think that he's had a good start to the year. I think it's been a weird start, especially in contrast to those 34 games or whatever it was that we saw under Dan last year. Um, but yeah, I think the bullpen management has been really weird. I don't think the lineups have been very good. I think just some of the decisions, like leaving guys in, like leaving Logan Gilbert in to face Jordan Alvarez, really weird. Bringing Luis Castillo out to face Jordan Alvarez, and then taking him out, really weird at 95 pitches or whatever it was. Really strange. Um, yeah, there's just been like certain moments where I'm like, don't like that. Don't like that bunt call, given the context of like the situation. Like, I don't like bunting in general. I made this very clear, but also like there are particular moments where I'm like, okay, I could kind of wrap my head around why they did that. And then there's moments where it's like, okay, yeah, first and second, Taylor Scott's on the mound. He's really struggling. This is what, Monday night, and
Yeah.
they wound
I think
up
that was the
winning
first
it.
game.
They wound up, yeah, they wound up winning anyway, and they wound up scoring in part because of the bunt still. But um, it's like Taylor Scott's laboring. He's not throwing strikes. JP has a really good feel for the strike zone still, even though that he hasn't had a ton of success so far this year. He still has that in his pocket. I think it was like a 2-1 count. Let him try and draw a walk and load the bases.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you just letting this guy off the hook? Especially knowing that Brian Abreu is coming out of the bullpen and Julio's on deck and he's like 1 for 8 against him. And oh, by the way, he's also like 1 for his last 18. Like, it just like the context of that, I'm just like, okay, that doesn't really make sense to do in that situation. I would rather let JP swing or try and hunt for a walk in that situation. And I will live with the results of that. If it doesn't result in the runners advancing, so be it. That's the risk that I'm willing to take in that situation. But whatever. In the end,
Mm-hmm.
it still worked out. But there's still like a decision where I don't agree with it. But I'm also just a dude, sitting in this chair watching the game at home, right? So what do I know? But yeah, that's generally how I feel about the Dan stuff.
Do you feel like it's just something where it's only been a pretty small sample size of games? Do you think it's something where it's the beginning of the year? Like when he came in last year, you mentioned how the very end of the year when he took over from Scott, how his decisions were fine, and I'm
Yeah,
wondering if part of that just could be because the team had been going for 4 or 5 months
yeah,
now. There was defined
yeah,
roles there. He just kind of did what he didn't really change a whole lot.
He didn't.
Now
He
he
didn't
has
put a
a
stamp on it until now. Yeah,
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 and now he has a new team, or it's really his team now. He has some new players. He has, especially the bullpen arms have been kind of revolving around as far as, is maybe it's just a feeling out process of kind of like
yeah,
what
for
what
sure.
people are. So maybe there
Yeah.
is, I'd be interested what the conversation is going to look like maybe around like All-Star break, being like, does he still feel pretty bad at this, or maybe he just needed, through middle of April to or
Well,
through April to kind of get his bearings on how to do this on a day-to-day basis.
and I'm glad that you said that, because to be fair to Dan, even though that he did have those 34 games, and he spent so much time in the majors as a catcher, and he's been around the ball club and he's been helping out, in camp for years and all that stuff. He's still a first time manager. And Scott Service, while he had less experience than Dan did going into the job, um, Scott was really bad at this to start. Really bad at this.
Yeah.
And this is before you were watching the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Scott was awful to start. Um, and then it got, a little bit better, and he started to feel more comfortable and really started to establish his philosophy, especially once they rebuilt, and it was no longer the team that like Jerry and Scott had inherited from the previous era, from the previous regime. So like the Canoes and the Cruises and those guys of the world were no longer on the club, and you were kind of going into the era that we're in now. Like it started to become Scott's thing, and things ultimately got a bit better, and the in-game decisions got a bit better. They were still questionable at times. Again, like I talked about, we still heavily criticize Scott a lot on the show. When I'm watching the game, I'm like, why is Scott doing this? Why is Scott doing X, Y, and Z? But yeah, Dan's still, what, it's been 47 games now that he has under his belt as a manager in Major League Baseball. And only 13 of those might be with his actual like stamp on it, with his actual identity implanted in the team. Um, so yeah, it's just, we'll wait and see. I'm not calling for the guy to be fired or whatever. I don't think that means though that we shouldn't criticize him for when, he
Yeah.
does something questionable. Um, but I also I'm not like, oh, like they made such a mistake, they need to move on, blah 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 blah. First and foremost, like I said with the Scott Service stuff, I think like again, and you because there's just so much context that we just don't have. Like I've never been like a fire the manager guy, fire the hitting coach guy. I think that is a simple and um frankly inaccurate answer to a much more complicated question. Um, because I mean, like, look at the offense right now. They're struggling. Jarrett DeHart's not here though. like,
Yeah.
it's like I don't think that it's just an oversimplification of a much more complicated situation, really. Just when we talk about managers, when we talk about coaches, when we talk about all that stuff. So yeah, with Dan, like I'm willing to, let it ride and see what happens here. And I don't, I don't think we have any other choice anyway. Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he's here for a while. So yeah, I think he'll get better. I just right now I don't like a lot of the things that have happened under his watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more like nuance to the discussion. I mean, he also has to deal with now losing Bliss and Robles and figure out how to
Yeah.
get around that with, the tools that he has. Because, it's not like he makes the roster, he just makes the lineups and the day-to-day stuff. But
Right. And that's and
so,
that's a and that's another good point. Like he
yeah,
was not
not giving
he
him
was
a
not
lot
give
to work with.
yeah, no, he was not. He was not put in he also was not put in the best position to succeed,
Yeah.
which is kind of a running theme here.
Yeah. Pretty much, unfortunately. So yeah, to finish out this segment though, I guess just going through your big standouts so far on the team and your big disappointments on the team. We'll start with the standouts. So if you just want to name like 2 or 3 players that you've kind of been either impressed by, or you just feel like have been, what you were hoping they would be going into the season thus far.
Yeah. Well, Jorge Polanco, duh.
Yeah.
Right. Do I need to even explain? Yeah. MVP, right? Um, I actually have been, even though there's still been the frustrating at bats and all that, I have been impressed with Julio overall. He is taking more walks. I mean, that pitch that he got to yesterday, or just that at bat overall that he had yesterday. I mean, the start of that at bat was the start of a lot. It's the same start of a lot of at bats that we've seen from Julio in those particular situations, which has been maddening, and they've wound up, ending in about 3 or so pitches.
Mhm.
Um, because he's just swinging out of his shoes. He's trying to do too much, blah, 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 blah. He swings through the first pitch, fouls off the next one, which that looked like the one shot that he would get, and he missed it. Oh boy. Right. But he gets a fastball on the bottom outside of the corner, and he just drops his barrel on it and slaps it into right field at 98 miles per hour, whatever it was.
Yep.
That's exactly what you want to see out of Julio in that situation. That was a really good piece of hitting from
Yep.
Julio. Yeah, more of that, please. More of that, especially in that situation where it's like, I don't need a home run here. Just tie the game. Just,
Mhm.
just tie the ball game up, or just get a hit. Just do something positive here that keeps things going, right, and gives the next guy a shot. Um, it doesn't necessarily like put the next guy in like a 2-out do or die type of scenario, right? Like you're the guy, right? And it should, and look, he's not going to come through every single time. I know that, fully aware of that, but it just doesn't feel like Julio is that guy that like, oh, he's coming up in the ninth. The opposing team and opposing team's fans should be just shitting their pants. Like
Yeah.
he hasn't felt like that guy yet. He doesn't feel like when Jordan Alvarez steps up and there's like
Yeah.
runners on the corners and 1 out in the ninth inning, right? And so yeah, so I want to see that kind of develop over time here, and we've seen some good things out of Julio. Like I feel like his overall feel for the strike zone has been better than we've seen it in the past. To like start the year, right? I'm trying to compare this to like other Marches and Aprils that we've seen from Julio. Um, he's hitting for more power than he usually has to start the year. I mean, this is the fastest that he's reached 3 home runs, which obviously that's not like a huge number or anything, but it is noteworthy
Mhm.
because he typically hasn't put the ball over the wall that early, that often. Um, and yeah, just overall, I feel like the quality of at bats have been pretty good. Pretty good. Like the process, even on Tuesday, like where he went, what, 0 for 4 or whatever it was, the process was pretty good. Like he stung that one ball that Myers dove for and made the catch. So yeah, so overall, I feel pretty good about where Julio's at. Randy has, he was terrible in the Giants series and not particularly great in the first 2 Astros games. But yesterday, I mean, double, grand slam, walk off walk, 5 RBI. He's come through clutch 3 times now.
Yeah.
Had the game tying double against the Giants. He had the which was his only hit. That series was still awful for him. Struck out so much. Um, obviously had the game tying home run against the A's on opening day, which you were there for. Oh yeah, by the way, I need to check the mail for Humpy. I think Humpy might be here. Yeah,
I
I
hope
should have
so.
done that before the show. I should have done that before the show. Had him on here. Anyway, so yeah, Randy obviously has been great. But yeah, shout out to Miles Mastroboni, man. Like it's been
Yeah.
like four games in a row. Dude's had like a clutch at bat or a clutch plate appearance where he's worked a walk or he's got a base hit that's led to something positive for the Mariners late in the game. So that's That's definitely unexpected. I also want to shout out Luis Castillo. I know he asked for like 2 or 3 standouts, and I've given you
You're
like
good.
5. But whatever. This is who I am. You guys know this. Brevity is not my strong suit, folks. And I'm sure you've learned this over the course of this interview as well. Um, but Luis Castillo has been excellent.
Yeah,
Um, and for a guy that was like in so many trade rumors this winter, and for a guy that, it seemed like fans were like, yeah, I'm okay trading Luis. Like, where would this team be right now without Luis Castillo?
he's been your second best starting pitcher, and you could even say best
Yeah,
so far.
yeah. Like the dude went toe to toe with Tarek Skubal and won and outdueled him, which is the whole point of Luis Castillo. Like, yeah, he's not in the same area code as like the Skubals of the world, but he certainly can go toe to toe with them on any given night,
Yeah,
give you a shot in those games. So yeah, Luis Castillo is a very valuable asset that other teams and his own fan base have greatly undervalued, I believe.
yeah, I've been really impressed with him so far, and I said it, at the beginning of the year, like it was pretty obvious in spring training, like we're going to see that velocity dip, and it's been pretty prevalent already. I think he is like a good mile an hour down on pretty much all of his pitches, which was to be expected. I mean, the dude's, I think he's what, 31, 32. He has a lot of miles on that arm. Makes sense. So really the only thing he needs to do then is if his velocity is going down, he needs to command and control better to kind of make up for that. And he's done great so far. Hopefully it keeps going. I will say, the biggest thing for him, it feels like he's kept the ball in the yard really well thus far, which felt kind of like his Achilles heel last year, where he'd like go, 5 strong, and then like in the sixth, like give up like a 2-run home run or something. So it's been nice to see that. But yeah, to end this out, we have to go to the opposite end of the spectrum with any disappointments. So a couple of your biggest disappointments thus far, not including obviously like the injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah, the odd year Garver train is not on it's not off to a great start. Um,
It's
yeah,
flawless
so
logic, really.
it is though. I mean, you look at the numbers, like
I mean,
it's insane. Like
yeah,
the disparity between odd years and even years
it's like
for Mitch
40
Garver.
WRC plus
Yeah,
difference.
it's like a 40% difference most of the time. Like it's insane. Um, yeah, so not off to a great start there. Had a big walk yesterday, even though it was probably should have been a strikeout, but whatever. Um, had a stolen base Tuesday night, which was
Yep.
insane. Literally like created a run with his legs. That's a sentence that I totally expected to say about Mitch Garver in 2025. Um, again, this is the funniest team in baseball by far.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, that's another thing that I really like, by the way, is how much they're stealing. That's one thing that I'll give props to Dan and like Dan's identity that he's brought to the team. Like the aggressiveness on the base pass has been awesome. Eric
Yeah.
Young Jr. is killing it right now.
They're third in stolen
For
bases right now.
yeah, I'd have to assume that they're top 3 in success rate as well. Like it feels like they haven't gotten caught much, which is great. They were like just smoking the Astros on the base pass this series,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun to watch. Kind of necessary for this club too. But yeah, anyway, so JP's really struggled this year. That's really disappointing to start the year. I mean, like he's still kind of getting his walks and stuff like that, but yeah, but overall, just the hits haven't come, and just not seeing great process out of JP right now. So that's been kind of a letdown. Um, who else? I Colin Snyder is a weird one because it's like I don't feel like he's necessarily been terrible,
No.
but he clearly has regressed so far. And and again, I don't feel like he's been in the put in the best positions to succeed, especially like that Friday game against the Giants. Um, but I do feel like like he's left some pitches in the middle of the plate. He obviously had that god awful error against the A's a while back. So Colin Snyder is like kind of like I know that's kind of like a random one to pull out here, but that's been a guy that I've like been a
Doesn't have
little
the
bit
juice
disappointed.
like he did last year.
Yeah, yeah, but also a little bit disappointed in the way that he's been used.
Yeah.
He's kind of been used as like, a Bizarro type of dude rather than like a Munio Spire type of dude,
Hmm.
which is what he was last year. And maybe we're seeing the reason why that is, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, right now the Mariners, it's really early on, so it's we're still obviously very much in the potential running with the AL West the way it's been shaken out thus far. The Astros, we've learned, from this series, not fantastic, that's for sure. So
Dude.
that's been a nice thing to learn, though.
How do you
But
lose
yeah,
that game
how do
yesterday?
you lose a Pebble Castillo start? I don't know. So that's pretty rough.
Not only a Pebble Castillo start, a game in which he and Casey Lawrence accounted for 7 innings, and you had a 5-0 lead in
Yeah,
5-0 lead with Hunter Brown on the mound, man. Dude,
yeah.
insane.
It was rough. It
Insane.
was rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be it for this segment. Ty, any last words, and where can the people find you?
Well, you can find me on Locked On Mariners. It's my podcast over on YouTube, which you're watching right now. So just type in Locked On Mariners in the search bar.
On
Subscribe,
Spotify and
please.
Apple and all that stuff too, if you're on audio.
Yep. Yep. On there as well. If you only listen on podcast platforms. So if you have a work commute or what have you, you can listen to us there. We post in the afternoons though, so it's probably like on the way home from work rather than on your way to work. But yeah, I live in Toronto, so 3 hour difference with Colby. We record at weird times. So yeah. Yeah, any last words? I would just say, hey, again, this team is incredibly funny. Take them for what they are. That's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going along for the ride. I'm laughing through the pain because it's easier than crying. And we'll see what happens. I don't. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if I necessarily have high expectations or high hopes here, especially with the injuries. But you know, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
we'll
So
see.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a very inspiring last message, but whatever.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you to Ty Dane Gonzalez for joining Mariners Rundown. I really appreciate not only every time he comes on the channel in general and gives some of his time to talk ball. He's very insightful, and I feel very obviously plugged into what's going on with the Mariners. So really enjoy having him on the show to talk a little bit about this very up and down start to the year thus far. We're going to end the show out with a couple very brief series previews here. I'm not going to get like super far into the analytical side of everything. But tonight, as you're listening to this now, if you're listening to this on what would it be, Friday morning, we are going to be hosting a 3-game series against the Texas Rangers, who are very much going to be that third team in the AL West division hunt between us and the Astros and, of course, them, the Rangers. They're currently going into this series 9-4. They're first in the AL West right now. Right now, their big bats is Josh Jung is one of them. He just came back from the IL. He currently has a batting average of 467 on 14 ABs. Jonah Heim also having a pretty hot start to the season. He has a 310 batting average and 29 at-bats. Wyatt, I was going to mention Wyatt Langford. However, he just got placed on the 10-day injured list due to an oblique issue, which is obviously for our pitching is going to be nice not to see him. I wish him, very quick recovery because he is a great player, and he started off the season really hot, has an 894 OPS and 4 home runs. So obviously a big miss for the Mariners, but hope that he gets back on the field soon. And then some guys who aren't doing as good, but I mean, hey, you still need to watch out for them. Obviously, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger as a new addition, and Jock Peterson as well. I mean, all of those guys can be dangerous, even if they've been having pretty cold starts to the season thus far. So Mariners pitchers are going to be still have to be on their A game this season, or sorry, for this series, because it's still going to be very important for us to take 2 out of 3 if we can. Going into the pitching matchups, Game 1, it is currently slated that we are going to see Bryce Miller versus Jacob deGrom. And yeah, that's obviously a rough game one. Bryce Miller has had a not great start to the season thus far. However, hopefully he can use this back at home where he pitches his best is in T-Mobile Park to finally get something going for this season to start a good campaign, hopefully, this year. A lot of it's been contact or control issues and command issues. Feels like he hasn't really had a good feel for his fastball in his last start against the Giants. Wasn't really throwing strikes with it. So hopefully his control and command are back for this game. He's certainly going to need it. And then Jacob deGrom, I mean, we all know who Jacob deGrom is. He is going to be dangerous against this lineup, this Mariners lineup. His last start wasn't great against the Tampa Bay Rays. He did give up 4 earned runs, but still, Jacob deGrom's Jacob deGrom. He's going to be nasty. He's going to be difficult. So really interested to see how these Mariners hitters fare up against him. Game 2, we have Bryan Woo versus Kumar Rocker. Bryan Woo has had a decent start to the season thus far, and really looking forward to seeing how he does in this outing back at T-Mobile Park, obviously. Had a decent start against the Giants as well, most recently, and just always I'm going to be looking forward to a Bryan Woo start. He's going to be going up against Kumar Rocker, who had a pretty rough first outing of his season, but his last one, he was fine. 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run, but only 1 strikeout against the Tampa Bay Rays. That 1 strikeout's pretty interesting. I'm a little surprised he didn't get multiple. So that's something to look at. Maybe he just doesn't really have good swing and miss stuff right now. Obviously with the Mariners, I mean, we'll see. But on the swing and miss side of it and the strikeout side, but Kumar Rocker is kind of just an interesting kind of wild card. He might be really good. He might shove against us, or he could have a rough outing. We'll see. And game 3 to end it all out, it's going to be Logan Gilbert versus Nathan Eovaldi. At least that's the probables right now. Logan Gilbert's going to be making his Eovaldi's going to be making his 4th start of the year. Also Gilbert as well. Eovaldi's been solid. Most recent start was against the Chicago Cubs. He gave up 3 earned runs and 4.2 innings pitched, but he currently still sports a 2.29 ERA. He's probably the Rangers' best pitcher right now. I know some people will say DeGrom, but I think DeGrom needs to, one, be healthy a little bit longer and show a bit more strikeout potential. Eovaldi is a solid pitcher. We've gotten to him before, especially Julio, so that'll be something to look out for. But a pretty stacked pitching matchup series right here. Miller versus DeGrom, Woo versus Rocker, and Gilbert versus Eovaldi. I think it's going to be a fun series to watch for the pitching matchups there. After that, we're going to have a day off, and then we head to Cincinnati for a 3-game series against the Reds, who right now are 5-8. I don't know if they're playing a game today, so it might be different tomorrow morning. But as I'm recording this, they're 5-8. Right now, the pitching probables for that is game 1, Luis Rock Castillo versus Nick Lodolo, who's a lefty, so Jorge Polanco is probably not going to start that game. Lodolo's had a pretty hot start to the season. He's currently sporting a 0.96 ERA, so that's pretty rough. Second game is going to be Pablo Castillo. As of now, they're probably, well, actually, never mind. It's not going to be Pablo Castillo. I forgot this morning they did option him back to Tacoma. So I don't know if that's just for now to get an extra relief arm until that spot in the order comes back. I'm not really sure. But right now, so basically it's to be determined against, I believe Nick Martinez is supposed to be slated for game 2. He had a really good year last year. It's been a bit rough so far. He's currently sporting a 6.06 ERA. So there's that. And then game 3 right now should be Bryce Miller versus Brady Singer. Singer's had a good start to the season, 2.25 ERA, was with the Royals last year. And he has pitched pretty well against the Mariners in general. So yeah, and really as far as the hitters go, I mean, there's not really been any good Reds hitters right now. But of course I have to mention Ellie De La Cruz. I mean, he's going to be the wild card there that the pitching is going to have to get out and keep him off the base pass. Because once he gets on the base pass, he's going to be a problem. So yeah, that's pretty much it I have for the Cincinnati Reds series. Don't know who's going to pitch game 2 yet. That's going to be interesting to watch. But yeah, looking forward to it in general. That's going to be it for this episode of Mariners Rundown. I really appreciate you if you've been watching and or listening through this whole thing. That means a whole lot to me. Once again, if you're listening to the show on Spotify or Apple, please follow the show and leave a 5-star review. That helps me out a lot. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel and leave a like as well. And if you like the channel enough, you can become a member for a couple dollars a month to get exclusive content. I'd really appreciate that as well. But regardless, I hope we have a good week coming up for Mariners baseball. It's been rough recently, but hey, maybe last night's win against the Astros is what we needed to kind of light a fire and get something going. So we're looking forward to it. I'll be watching along with you. That's going to be it for me in this one. I will see you in the next.